welcome to this candidate forum for Marin Municipal Water District, Division 1, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Marin County. I'm Susan Stomp of the League of Women Voters of Marin, and I will be your moderator. With me as timekeeper is League member Elaine Biagini. The two candidates with us are running for one seat in the Marin Municipal Water District Division 1. They are Jack Gibson and Greg Nell. Each candidate has been invited to make a 3-minute opening statement. We'll begin with Jack Gibson. Jack?
Okay, thank you. My name is Jack Gibson, and I am a candidate for re-election to the Marin Municipal Water District. And I want to start by, first of all, telling you something about the Marin Municipal Water District. The Marin Municipal Water District is the oldest municipal water district in the state of California, the first municipal water district. It was created at the turn of the last century and marks a transition in the change from private water companies to water as a public utility. It took the local community at the time to go to Sacramento and pass legislation that authorized a municipal water district, and then a passage of a vote in the county of Marin, in the jurisdictional area of the Marin Municipal Water District, to create the district. The effect of that and the legacy we have today is that the promise that was made to those voters is that not only do you have a public water system, but you also have a park. That was the promise. One of the main functions of the water district and the board of directors at the water district is maintaining that legacy of our 22,000 acre watershed. I've been on the water board now for 23 years. 10 of those years I served as chairman of the watershed committee. A number of years ago, in an effort to promote the legacy and to make sure that people understood and could feel the legacy that the water district has with regard to our 22,000 acre watershed, I wrote a book, Mount Tamalpais and the Marin Municipal Water District. I took the opportunity to use over 500 photographs that the district has and compile them into this book, which is the primary purpose is to maintain the legacy. For the record, there are certainly royalties. I have assigned them all to our watershed fund. My task in my term on the watershed, on the water board, has been to maintain and promote that and educate people about that legacy. I want to continue to do that, and everything that we do in one way or another relates to our watershed and the source of our pristine watershed supply that comes from our 7 reservoirs. Okay?
Thank you. Greg Nell.
Thank you, and thanks, Jack. Jack and I have been friends for a long time, and when I decided to run, there was a lot of rumors that he was retiring, but I still really felt a need to, run for this office. I've been serving in the North San Rafael community for several decades now. And for example, I was president of the neighborhood association, Santa Margarita, that restored Santa Margarita Creek. It's called the Recreate the Creek Project. We tore up 10 feet of roadway either side of the existing creek and put in native plants. I noticed in my own business, which is also in North San Rafael, I had an employee that would not get on the ambulance when she was having a heart attack because it cost so much. So at the urging of Barbara Heller, I co-founded the San Rafael Committee for Paramedic Services and ran 4 campaigns out of my office because we didn't have the money for fancy consultants. And as a result of that, nobody is personally responsible for any ride to a hospital. We do bill Medicaid and insurance, but we don't come after you like all the other ambulance districts in the Bay Area, as far as I know. So this is another plus for the North San Rafael area. I've served for 4 terms, elected in the exact same Division 1, is like a mirror of the San Rafael School District. I've run one 4 times, currently serving as president, but that's a rotating position. And you know, we make tough choices. When the economy collapsed in 2008, we were getting cuts twice a year. And we had to make the hard choices to keep the money in the classroom and keep the cuts as far away from students as possible. And we were able to do that with the cooperations of our unions. We have 3 unions. MMWD has 1, and they agreed to concessions which would help their pension and their longevity and their salary, which included a cap on benefits, so they share in that, and a move to Medicare at age 65 like everyone else in America, except the public employee unions. But our school teachers did that to help the district maintain itself. I had to balance budgets 3 years out. Now, Jack says MMWD is in the business of generating revenue. Well, it's not in the business of generating revenue. You got to learn to live within your means. And I know how to do that. I've done it for 16 years, and it's a lesson we need for new leadership on the board.
Thank you. Now for the questions. The candidates will each have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. And to be fair, we will rotate the order in which they respond to the question. So Greg will answer first. And the question is, the district needs to hire a new general manager. What qualities should they be looking for?
Well, I think we need an engineer for a general manager, because the main duty of the board is to move water. And you know, we have tremendous help with that with Fire Safe Marin. But I'd like to see an engineer, but I'd also like to see somebody that has experience in negotiating with unions. I believe, at least for new employees, we have to do some cost-cutting measures. So I would want to speak with someone that's either run a school district or another area where they have experience in dealing with unions in negotiations.
Thank you. Jack?
When I first was elected to the board, we were faced within months of the challenge of hiring a new general manager. Up to that time, every general manager in the history of the district had been an engineer. We decided at that time, it doesn't have to be an engineer. It's fine if it is an engineer, but what we need is a good manager. That's the primary thing. And I have followed that admonition. I think that was the right decision. The general manager is, in many ways, the face of the district. We need a people person who has people skills and is an exception. We have 245 employees, and that's a management challenge, not an engineering challenge. We have a staff of professional engineers, many of them with advanced degrees. It's not necessary that the general manager be an engineer.
Thank you. The next question will be for you, Jack, first. Do you see water efficiency as a valuable strategy in water management? And if so, what measures would you support to increase water efficiency programs with the department as well as with customers?
Okay, yes, absolutely. Water, I'm not sure what you mean by efficiency. Obviously, sustainability is critical, and supply management is critical. We have, and have had for a number of years, a recycled program. We have become very efficient with our conservation efforts in managing our supply. We have just recently increased, we've improved, quite frankly, the contract that we have with the Sonoma County Water Agency that has allowed us to access, we don't necessarily always have to use it but we have access to another 14,000 acre feet of water through our Sonoma County water contract. We have just finished a long-term plan to look at water efficiency, water supply, and to protect us from various kinds of disasters, from droughts to possibly earthquakes and so forth. It's our water supply taking us out to the year 2040, and it's the 2040 water strategy plan. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, I believe the conservation is very important, and we have a relatively easy job because the Marin community is really aware of the problem, aware of the drought. I mean, we have a change in our weather patterns. The jet stream's broken in 2 places. We're entering a new normal, as our firefighters call it. So we have to continue with conservation. Now, at one point in our history, we passed Measure V, which said we're going to build our own pipeline to the Russian River. And unless the Conservation Commission of the MMWD, of which I was a sitting member, determined we could conserve our way out and avoid the bond issue and the tax hikes and the rate hikes that would go along with the pipeline. And so we determined that we would do it through conservation, and therefore the pipeline was never built and the bonds were never issued. One thing I'd like to see us do is gray water systems, like they do in Israel, sophisticated gray water systems. I think the district should be helping design them, come up with some standard designs, and even subsidize them, because I think we need water for our landscape, and that would be the way to get it there. And there's a lot of critters in Marin, and we just can't have gravel yards everywhere. And I think gray water systems with subsidies from the district is the way to go.
Thank you. The next question you'll get first, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
The public has been opposed to plans to do control burns on the watershed to reduce its flammable brush load. Should it do controlled burns even so?
Yes.
And why do you say that?
Well, control burns are the most efficient way of reducing fuel load. Control burns are recommended by every vegetation manager that I've talked to and every fire chief. From running the paramedic campaigns for 16 years, I have a close relationship with our firefighters and with our fire chief Gray here in San Rafael, and they all say it can be done safely. There's no pesticides or herbicides that are used, and I think it's absolutely critical because of this new normal we're in. We're wildfire tornadoes, where firefighters are losing their lives in ways we never saw before, where the fireproof blankets are failing because of the intense heat and wind. That reducing fuel load should be the priority over somebody's fear that something might get out of hand.
Thank you. Jack?
Yes, I think that the prescribed burns, as we call them, is an absolute critical tool to our management of our watershed. The effort, we have several scheduled over the next year, as a matter of fact. Often they're scheduled and they don't come about because the amount of planning and science that goes behind each of the prescribed burns is enormous. I mean, it depends. You have to have the proper weather day with the proper wind direction, the proper temperature, and a lot goes into it. And then we have to clear it with the air quality management people as well, and they have the authority at the very last minute to cut it off if things aren't exactly right from their point of view. So a lot goes into it, but they're an extremely valuable wildfire protection tool. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. The next question will be for Jack first. Could there be savings and increased efficiency if MMWD were to merge with the North Marin Water District? And what are your views on that?
Sure. Yeah, I absolutely. When I was first elected to the board, Jared Huffman and I, I was president, he was vice president then. He was obviously on our board at the time. We talked about this, and we had a meeting. At that time, John Nelson, who was the North Marin Water manager, general manager, he was just going out. We had a meeting with him, then Supervisor Gary Giacomini, and Dietz Stroh, former general manager, MMWD, and Jared and I. The subject was the possibility of merging the two districts. At that time, the advice we got from all of them was that it's not in the cards, at least at that time, because at that time there was a disparity in rates that's much less so between the two districts. That's much less so today. They're very comparable, so it might be wise to take a shot at it today. But there's no question. I mean, the model might be Central Marin Police, which I think has proved very well. There's efficiencies, potentially even superior service, better service. And I not only think it's a good idea, I think it is an inevitable idea. It will happen. It's just a matter of when.
Thank you, Greg.
Yes, anytime you can combine agencies, it's a good idea. In the Central Marin Police, there's also been several fire agencies that have combined. San Rafael has recently has a shared use agreement. It's almost complete partnership with Marinwood Fire. Before we do that, we're going to have to make the call on fluoridic acid. NMWD North Marin is completely against putting aluminum smelting byproduct into the water. And I don't think there's any need for it anymore, and it's a tremendous cost. And just Friday, Trump put a 25% tariff on chemicals coming in from China, and that's where we get our fluoridic acid. It's not even the salt, like sodium fluoride you get in your toothpaste. It's actually a toxin, and we would have to address that. I know there's some complexities with the law, but I think it can be fairly easily resolved. But we would have to do that before we could have any merger with North Marin Water.
Thank you. The next question will be for Greg. What actions would you like to see MMWD do to address the risk of the district's fire prevention and detection efforts?
Well, what I'd like to see, and it's in my platform, is adopt fire spotter technology, which is built off a shot spotter. Everybody's probably heard of that, where they have an algorithm that immediately tells you what corner the shot was fired on. Well, Sonoma is putting in an 8-camera system that uses not the human eye. Right now we have 3 cameras that PG&E funded for us, but it feeds into a monitor at County Fire, and somebody has to see it. The new technology that's out there, and we can find the money to do it, immediately sources the point of ignition by computer algorithm. And there's always a better outcome the faster that you can get to them, particularly with the way there's less humidity in the air, less moisture in the plants. The fires grow so fast that I believe we need to do more in fire planning, both for staging equipment and escape routes, and for investing in the fire spotting technology.
Thank you. Jack?
Yes, the protection against wildfires is something that's been on the MMWD list as long as I've been on the board. It didn't take 2 recent fires to wake us up to that. There's 25,000 houses that sit in our urban wildland area within 2 miles of the watershed. So the risks are high, and we know that, which is why we have over 1,000 acres of cleared land as fire breaks. We have instituted brush clearing. We spend over $4 million every year on keeping the underbrush cleared out and so forth in order to help this. When I first went on the board, I was a co-chair of Measure L at the time, which is our fire flow measure, which was instituted to work with the fire chiefs. We just recently went over $100 million spent on doing increased, more fire hydrants, more efficient and pipes for fire flow specifically. And it's just an ongoing, we're never going to be rid of the risk, and it's a perpetual ongoing task that we continue to manage. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. The next question, are the water rates fair and sufficient?
In my judgment, they are fair. There's one of the things that the district does not do well, in my opinion, and has not done well for some time, is communicate on our water rates. It is, I've heard the question, I conserve water and I pay more in rates. We don't sell water. What we sell is infrastructure, service, storage. And that is a costly process. We have an infrastructure that's over 100 years old. And the water rates are based on the cost of that service, not the sale of water. Water is used as a measurement for your rate only because the law requires us to encourage conservation and to bill that way. But the fact is, you're paying for the service, and there is a perpetual and a study that we do all the time with cost of service study, which is what sets the rates and determines the rates. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, I would advocate putting off the 6 rate increases or 2 rate increases another year. The 7% rate increase was scheduled for 2018, and then they decided to put that off so Jack and Cynthia could run without a rate increase on the ballot. I mean, on people's minds. But I think the water rates are meant to feed MMWD and not does not take into account the effects on seniors with fixed incomes, small employers, the push on rental rates, since water is usually hit, in your rent. So we have this soaring rental price increase, and water rates are part of that. So I would advocate postponing it until we get someone in there like myself that has a different set of eyes. Sending the same people back for another 28 years is not going to change the way things are done. And I really believe that we have to, since it was okay to postpone it for the election, they could postpone it another year and let me take a look at the books and see what we can do. But just superficially, it looks like there's expenditures far beyond what are necessary. And I think if we cut the fluoridation program, not only will the water be healthier, but there's a lot of money that goes into that in manpower and mixing and cost from China.
Thank you. The next question for Greg. Should the district recycle more water to increase supply, and if so, how could that be achieved?
Well, I think the district has done a good job with recycling, and they're moving out of that, and there's a new plant, the bond issue was passed for, that Las Colinas Valley Sanitary is going to build so they can close their plant and create more reclaimed water. I'd like to see an initiative on gray water, where everybody could afford to install a gray water system, and instead of the water going down the sewer, the water could be used for irrigation. And I think it would be better for the little critters and better for fire safety if we could have water in our landscape. But the reclaimed water is now the venue of Las Colinas Valley Sanitary now. I don't know why they decided to back out of that, but right now there isn't a plan or a need, apparently. This is going to take care of it.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, I think that recycled water and gray water are excellent mechanisms for our water supply, and that we have to do such things. We have several plans out there. For example, recycle water out to Peacock Golf Course is a natural. We are in full partnership with Las Colinas Sanitary District right now. We are a partner in the new project they're setting up at this point. So it is clearly something we should be doing, and we should be doing it regionally. I am a member of the North Bay Water Reuse Authority, which is a North Bay regional organization that promotes water reuse throughout the North Bay, and those kinds of regional approaches are, I think, the wave of the future, and quite frankly, the most efficient way to go.
Thank you. This will be the last question that we'll have. MMWD is a large customer of the Sonoma County Water Agency. Can we count on that water in the future?
The water we get 25% of our water supply from the Sonoma County Water Agency, as I mentioned a minute ago, and that contract has just been amended to give us even more access to that. Can it be counted on? It is, I don't think any single source that we have should be relied on exclusively. I think we need multiple sources of water, which is exactly what we try to do. We have our 7 reservoirs, we have our water conservation effort, we have our recycle water effort, and of course we have the Russian River water as well. Every source that we have, we will examine, and we need multiple sources just to protect the sustainability of the supply.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, I think Jack has a pretty clear handle on this. You know, we can never guarantee that some future drought would not jeopardize the water in the Russian River, you know, or its tributaries, you know, the Eel, et cetera. And I support the multi-pronged approach of reclaimed water, conservation, some Russian River water in our 7 reservoirs. I'm wanting to add to that mix of gray water program, as I've mentioned. But there's no hard, fast guarantee. You know, I can look into the future and say the Russian River will always be there for us. We don't know how far advanced global climate change has gone. You know, we may be in a worse problem than we're even predicting right now, because it takes so long for the effects to come due. So, you know, Jack and I agree, and we actually agree on a lot of things.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our questions, but before the candidates make their closing statement, here's some useful information about the election. Election day is on Tuesday, November 6th. If you wish to register to vote, or if you've moved since the last time you voted and need to re-register, you may register at any time online, or you may mail in your change as long as it's postmarked by October 22nd, 2018. Vote by mail requests must be received no later than October 30th. If you go to the League of Women Voters Voters Edge website at votersedge.org/CA, that's VOTERSEDGE.org, and then you enter your street address and zip code. You will be able to see your own ballot with links to the candidates, the issues, the ballot measures, and information about the voting process itself. Now the candidates will make their closing statement of 2 minutes, and we'll start with Greg Nell.
Thank you. I believe that it's time to put somebody in Division I who's lived there and worked in the community a lot and is very familiar with the issues that we face in North San Rafael and the environs. I'm a person that sees a problem and gets things done. So if you look at my record and go to my website, Nell for Water Board 2018, you'll see all the things that I've done besides run the largest school district in Marin. For example, we have an opioid crisis that's facing the country. And me and Mark Dale formed a citizens group. The county took it under its wing, and we're now a joint county commission called RX Safe Marin with 5 working groups to attack the opioid crisis and the prescription drug use, misuse, and abuse crisis. That model that I formed with our core group is now a national model, and I've been appointed to a statewide office called an accelerator for the opioid crisis. That's just an example of the stuff that I do. I am a problem solver. I get into it, I come up with the solutions, the paramedics, restoring a creek, opioid crisis, working on a school board when you're in the middle of a recession and bringing it through. That's who I am. And Jack's just sat on the board and worked with he's been president of the North Bay Watershed Committee for a number of years. But he hasn't done anything in North San Rafael, which is where this 99% of this district resides. So I ask for your vote on November 6th. It will result in an improvement, and it will slow down the water rate hikes until I get to the bottom of where all this money is going and why they need 47% rate hikes in the last few years.
Thank you. Jack?
Okay. When I made my opening statement, I talked about the importance of our legacy and the watershed. As one of the most important things that the Water District is involved in. I want to now make a connection to virtually everything that we do, whether it's the purity of the water, whether it's protecting from wildfire. There's a great sign at the Academy of Sciences in San Francisco that says everything in the world is connected to everything else in the world, and it's absolutely true. And everything we do at the Water District is related to our 22,000-acre watershed and the pristine source of water that we get from that. It helps to make sure that we have the best water quality that in the area. Just a point of clarification on a couple of things. The rate increase that we last made a couple of years ago did not have anything in it that said another rate is supposed to come. What it said was that in July of 2019, we're supposed to reevaluate it against the cost of services and then evaluate whether the rate can be reduced or increased at that time. I have voted for reduction of water rates in my history. I have sat on the board for 10 years managing the rate at a steady level without an increase. I sat for another several years without a rate increase. That was because the water rates at that time were out of line, we felt. Since then, we've raised them incrementally, and over the 23 years I've been on the board, we are right up to what we would be on a Bay Area cost of living index for water rates. So we're not out of line at all. It's a myth.
Thank you. That concludes our forum. Thank you to the candidates for your participation, to Elaine Biagini, who was our team timekeeper, and to you for watching and voting.